Welcome to Sharika Talks, Unraveling the Truth, a journalist's quest. Subscribe for the truth.
Now, Chapter 16, The Girl Behind the Voice. The interview with Kailash Satyajit had gone as planned. The final task was to document the rescued girls returning to their homes in Nepal and Bihar. Footage that had to be captured before October 1st, as the program was scheduled to air on October 2nd, marking Gandhi Jayanti. Satyajit's field agents worked tirelessly to locate the families. By the evening of September 30th, the team, Sharika, Riaz, and Farhana, reached Gorakhpur, where they joined the Satyajit Foundation members, including the towering figure of Balbinder Singh. They traveled by road. In the villages, they filmed everything: the tearful reunions, crumbling mud walls, trembling hands touching vanished daughters. They interviewed families too stunned to speak, mothers whose grief had calcified into silence. The air was thick with sound. The sharp crackle of dry twigs under nervous feet, muffled sobs breaking through years of silence, the clink of bangles as mothers clutched their daughters tight. From a distant temple, a conch shell blew, echoing across the fields, while a transistor radio in a neighboring house played a crackling old Hindi tune, unnoticed. Someone dropped a steel tumbler, and it rolled noisily over the stone floor before silence swallowed it whole again. This time, every girl was sent in the name of religion, to get the blessings of the gods. Some parents and villagers couldn't even grasp the reality of the situation. The cries of goats, the clatter of bicycle bells, and the rhythmic drone of insects formed a strange symphony beneath the human sorrow. Time, however, was scarce. After finishing the final shoot at a Nepali village, they completed the final sequence, a girl kneeling before her father's feet, unable to meet his eyes. They had run out of tissues and strength. They parted ways with Satyajit's foundation team and rushed back to Delhi. Farhana took a flight from Buddha International Airport at Lumbini to New Delhi with an SSD containing every visual they captured. Riaz and Sharika, with the camera gear and everything else, took a train after reaching Gorakhpur. Back in the Delhi studio, Sharika watched as Anuj stitched together the raw footage into a rough edit. As per the request from the Satyajit Foundation, all the faces of their operatives were blurred. She stayed throughout the night with Sheila, Farhana, and the editors from BBC, polishing every frame and voiceover. Sharika had also requested access to all raw footage, not just for archival reasons, but to compare it with the final narrative. Sheila, impressed by her dedication, had approved it without hesitation. It was 2:39 a.m. on October 2nd when the final cut was locked. The title, Shadow Tears. As the closing credits were prepared, Sheila turned to Sharika. "You can't use your real name," she said softly. Sharika looked surprised, and just like that, in a split second, she chose the name Rishika Vaani. Rishika, nearly an anagram of her real name, Sharika, and meant female sage. Vaani, a Sanskrit word meaning voice, the meaning of her original name. It was poetic, camouflaged, and yet unmistakably hers. It felt like hiding in plain sight. It felt right. Sharika didn't get the credit or her name in the title for this project, but she didn't have a problem with that. She had gained more than experience from this project. She'd found mentors, networks, and trust. Sheila Bhatia had grown fond of her. Anuj and Farhana, young and driven, treated her not as an intern, but as a peer. Even Riaz, stoic and skeptical, praised her conviction. In every meeting, she asked serious questions, took notes, cracked jokes to lighten the room. She had become, silently and surely, everyone's favorite. As the clock in the editing suite ticked toward dawn, Sheila asked, "When do your classes resume?" "November 1st, Sharika replied. "But I have to submit a proposal for my Capstone project before that." Sheila leaned closer. "Now do you understand why I made you stay behind the camera? Why I insisted you change your name?" Sharika shook her head honestly. Sheila exhaled. "You once told me you want to be an investigative journalist. That world isn't lit by stage lights. It thrives in shadows. I made the mistake of showing my face too early. It cost me stories. Sometimes it put people I loved in danger. Protect your anonymity like it's your voice. I see a bright future in you. Stay in touch. Sharika wanted to hug her, scream with joy. Her idol believed in her. She was seen. A storm of thoughts surged within her. She wanted to tell Sheila about Sachin, about Project Umbra, but she needed more evidence, not instincts. In the interview, Kailash Satyajit had said something strange. Once, a common man saved some girls from traffickers before our team reached a single purse. He coughed, corrected himself. A single group of people, yes, they resisted them. We reached soon after. Sharika had caught it. She wasn't sure if Sheila had. And then came the discussion of deep enterprises. When asked about partnerships, Satyajit had replied, philanthropic donations fund our work, deep enterprises being a major patron. The CEO, Sukanya, and I are in discussions about integration. Some of our safe houses are entirely deep enterprises property, especially for the older girls, those who can't return home because of stigma or fear. You'd be surprised. Some parents reject them outright. I've seen cases where girls returned and took their own lives within weeks. That's why we're working with Derek's, their shelter and vocational wing, to give these girls a future. We're still waiting on government-level approvals to expand nationally. Something about the way he said, the CEO Sukanya felt rehearsed, filtered, like someone was manipulating him. Sharika noted it all. That evening, October 2nd, Sharika sat in the plush living room of Uncle Aravin's Delhi home. Her grandfather and Mira Auntie were watching the premiere broadcast of the documentary Shadow Tears on BBC. Their eyes were moist with emotion, but Sharika could not focus. She was scrolling through the SmartTag location data on her Samsung phone. On September 5th, she had seen Sachin move from Palakkad to Delhi, then vanish into the Thar Desert on the 16th. Then, she'd had to pause Umbra as a call came from Farhana to join the shoot of girls returning to their homes. Now, on reviewing the rest of the data, seated on the soft cushioned sofa in Uncle Aravin's home, a cold thread tightened in her chest. September 15 to 22, Sachin stayed in the Thar Desert for 7 days. September 23, he began moving eastward. September 27, he reached Gorakhpur, the exact date and place of their field shoot, the same day they were filming. From 2 a.m. to 11 a.m., he had been there. Afterward, he moved north, crossing the Sonaloi border into Nepal. He had then traveled into a remote part of Nepal and remained there. Sharika's hands trembled as she scanned all 4 camera feeds. She scanned, rewound, frame by frame. Then she saw it. There he was. In footage from Riaz's camera on Platform 1, lying on a bench, hugging his backpack like a lifeline. His clothes were clean this time. No blood, no mud, only stillness, sleeping like a quiet, homeless traveler. It lasted barely 2 seconds. But she knew that face. Her breath caught. For just a moment, he flickered through the frame, like a ghost hiding in the open. If he had been awake, would he have joined the chaos? Intervened? And then came the bigger question. If he did, whose side would he have been on? Yes, of course, with Satyajit Foundation men, she told herself. But another voice whispered, whose side would he really have been on? A chill surged through her limbs. What was he doing there? Was it all just a coincidence? Or was he watching, fleeing? Was he part of the racket? Was he faking sleep? Was he observing? He had stayed till 11 a.m., or at least his bag had. Then she remembered Kailash's words about deep enterprises. She felt something was off, some pattern. Something didn't add up. She tried to brush it off. Maybe I'm imagining connections again, seeing him in every shadow, connecting everything to him. But she couldn't ignore the sense of unease. As the documentary concluded, her grandfather embraced her with pride. Mira Auntie had tears in her eyes. Moments later, a call from Sheila and the entire crew lit up her screen. Congratulatory voices. Riaz even chuckled. You're officially one of us now. But Sharika couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, her grandfather flew back to Kerala. Sharika returned to her hostel, knowing her second year at JMI University was set to begin on November 1st. But before that, she had to submit her capstone project proposal, but her mind was already adrift. The AJK Mass Communication Research Center wasn't like the journalism departments back home in Kerala, where the syllabus hadn't changed in decades. At JMI, the MA Convergent Journalism program was restructured almost annually, integrating AI, mobile journalism, social media, YouTube, Instagram, and even AR/VR storytelling. While journalism schools in Kerala still revolved around outdated television modules, JMI was light years ahead. The Capstone project in particular was rigorous. Each student had to choose an original investigative topic, submit a research prospectus, and pursue the story for 6 months, culminating in a documentary, long-form article, or interactive media presentation. They could do this in small groups or alone, depending on the project they chose. Now, sitting alone on the hostel balcony, notebook in lap, she tried to plan her capstone project. But her thoughts kept spiraling back to one name, one face. She checked the SmartTag again. Sachin's signal had vanished. Before it went dark, it showed him cutting through deep forests toward Lapchala, the Nepal-Tibet border. He wasn't on official routes. No civilian permits. He was crossing into Tibet illegally. She knew what that meant. There would be no signal beyond that point. Smart trackers like Samsung Tag wouldn't work in China. But she was sure of one thing. Whatever Sachin was doing, it was something no government was meant to know. And suddenly, with no warning, her mind cleared. She knew what her capstone project had to be. Far away, hidden behind ancient pine trees, Sachin lay in wait. A sound nearby. He tensed. Chinese border patrol? He clutched the Glock 27 in his pocket with his right hand and simultaneously opened the zip of his backpack with his left. In a fluid motion, he grabbed the handle of his AK-47. With a folded stock, it fit easily in his Air Vault backpack, which was fully expanded, yet he could pull it out effortlessly. But this time, using it wasn't necessary. The sound was just a wild boar. He exhaled, quietly adjusted his backpack, then looked ahead. The same pass, the same unforgiving trail he had once taken. But this time, he was ready. His eyes turned toward his destination. He whispered to himself, "Last time, I failed, but today, I am prepared." And he stepped into the snow. End of chapter.
Thank you for watching Unraveling the Truth, A Journalist's Quest. Subscribe to stay updated on Sharika's journey. Stay tuned for the next part.
Disclaimer. Unraveling the Truth, A Journalist's Quest is a work of fiction. The experiences, ideas, and theories presented by the characters, including the books they write, are purely fictional and do not reflect real-world events, beliefs, or ideologies. While some incidents and characters may be inspired by real-world scenarios, they are entirely fictionalized for storytelling purposes. The author does not endorse or share the viewpoints expressed by any character in this novel. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or real events is purely coincidental. Viewer discretion is advised.